Everybody loves a good scare. For most of us, that comes in the shape of horror movies. From slick psychological thrillers to campy gore-filled slasher flicks. In this Choose Your Weapon series, we take a look at famous characters who wield that specific weapon. Then we pose the question, how well would this weapon suit us if we had to battle it out in the apocalypse? Today's weapon of choice is the machete. This broad blade weapon is usually 12 to 26 inches in length and an eighth of an inch in diameter. Typically used for agricultural purposes, this weapon is used in uprisings in poorer countries due to its availability and cheap manufacturing cost. In 1994, as the Rwandan genocide was being perpetrated, the weapon of choice for the Interahamwe military was the dreaded machete. As this year marks the 30th anniversary of this tragedy, it's hard to fathom that in a short amount of time, nearly 1 million people lost their lives due to this conflict. Machetes were used with deadly efficiency, and those that did not perish are forever scarred, some even losing limbs as an eternal symbol of that horrible time. The machete is often a secondary weapon or sidearm accompanying a more deadly primary weapon. This weapon is very prevalent in African nations. The flag of Angola actually features the machete. Now that we have a brief overview of the machete, let's get into its use in horror movies and some of the famous examples of who prefer this weapon to do their dirty work. Brand recognition is everything. When you see the red and white logo, you think Coca-Cola. When you see the golden arches, you think McDonald's. And of course, when you think horror movie machete, you think Jason Voorhees and the Friday the 13th franchise. Jason holding the machete high over his head is an iconic image and part of popular culture. Friday the 13th is an American horror classic boasting 12 slasher films, a television series, novels, comic books, and tie-in merchandise. The movie focuses on Jason, who as a boy was thought to have drowned at Camp Crystal Lake due to negligence from the camp counselors. Decades later, the lake is rumored to be haunted and is the setting for a series of mass murders. Jason is featured in all the film installments and is either the killer or motivation for the killings. Being highly inspired by 1978's Halloween, Friday the 13th was written by Victor Miller, and the films spawned by his sick imagination have grossed $468 million to date. The original Friday the 13th was released in 1980. This franchise was a horror mainstay in the 80s and 90s. My personal favorite, Freddy vs. Jason, was released in 2003, bringing two horror titans together to battle it out. It's a pretty cool crossover movie, getting to see part of the storyline from Nightmare on Elm Street's Freddy Krueger and the other storyline following Jason Voorhees, but ultimately tying the two together and having some awesome battles. From Jason's machete to hockey mask to creepy theme music, it's hard not to put him on the Mount Rushmore of horror villains. Next up is 2010's Machete, starring Danny Trejo. This movie was written and directed by Robert Rodriguez and is considered a grindhouse movie, referring to low-budget films often shown in rundown theaters known as grindhouses. In this movie, we follow Machete Cortez, a Mexican federale who is hell-bent on revenge after being betrayed by former federale-turned-drug lord Rogelio Torres, who kills Machete's wife. This movie may be more action than horror, but the gore and theme of the movie fit right in with the horror genre. This movie is a great watch, and the lead character's name is Machete, for crying out loud. Definitely not as well known as Friday the 13th, this movie still brought in $45 million worldwide. Surprisingly, this film is banned in Ukraine due to one of its co-stars, Steven Seagal, visiting Crimea during the Russian occupation without permission from the Ukrainian authorities, causing him to be blacklisted. Old Steven Seagal must have thought he was above the law. This movie also has a sequel released in 2013 called Machete Kills. The last example on the list today will be the iconic character of Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead and his red-handled machete. Now, it's fair to say Rick has utilized many different weapons to dispatch his foes, but today we will focus on his use of the machete. Making its first appearance when the group found themselves in the West Georgia Correctional Facility, a character named Thomas attempts to kill Rick twice, but in turn, Rick turns the table on him and he plunges the machete into Thomas's head. After the machete changes hands, Rick ultimately gets the weapon back when encountering the Claimers. Rick kills the leader Joe, then holding true to his words from the famous machete speech, where he tells Gareth he will kill him with a red-handled machete, we see Gareth on his knees inside a church. A very ironic location for the brutality that follows, as Rick strikes him down with several blows from the red-handled machete, fulfilling his prophecy. The machete itself has a lot of lore behind it and is featured in other parts of the Walking Dead universe. Now it's time to rank the machete as a melee weapon and how it would perform in an end-of-days scenario. We have 5 categories used, with each one earning the weapon up to 10 points each, making 50 a perfect score. First up is durability. The machete is very durable. The blade can become damaged and the handle can break, but if you keep up with maintenance, this weapon can last for years. 7 out of 10 points. Next is mobility, or how easy the weapon is to carry. The machete excels in this category as you can carry it on your person or in a bug-out bag, and it is very lightweight. 9 out of 10 points. Looking at effectiveness, this weapon is very deadly in close quarters. There is the possibility that it can get stuck if the swing misses, or it may take more than one blow to seal the deal. Still, it gets 7 out of 10 points. Next up is the weapon's range. It is at its most deadly when in close combat, maybe a 10 to 15 foot radius when spinning around. This weapon can also be thrown, but only in a desperate situation, and results can vary. 6 out of 10 points. Last, we look at ease of use. It doesn't get much better, to be honest. The balanced light blade can be used easily for nearly anyone. The operation of this weapon is straightforward and does not require a lot of training to become proficient. 9 out of 10 points. The final results for the machete are 38 out of 50. This gives it the rank of B+, just falling short of the A tier. I hope you enjoyed this content. It is fun to make. I know machetes are used in many different films and shows. Today I only focused on 3 examples. In the comments below, let me know what famous machete scenes are your favorite. Please hit that subscribe button and check out my other videos.